So the Ukrainian government posted this disgusting graphic, and they ended up deleting it because so many people were angry. But I took a screenshot and I posted it on Twitter. I mean, look at what they're saying. This is the Ukrainian government. They posted this picture that says Syria in 5 years, 100 missiles, and Ukraine in 22 days, 1,100 missiles. And then underneath they say, realize the scale of the disaster. What? What does that even mean? Hold on a second. Are you seriously saying now that the destruction in Ukraine is worse than in Syria? Oh my God. I mean, this is not only disgusting and deplorable, it's just a lie. It's a flat out lie. I don't understand why they feel the need to make this comparison. Because, Zelensky has been going around, the Ukrainian president, he goes and gives a speech to the US Congress, and he says, 9/11 was a big tragedy for you. Pearl Harbor was a big tragedy for you. Please have sympathy with us. And then he goes and he does the same thing with the Germans. He makes a reference to, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And then he goes and speaks to the Israelis, and he says the Holocaust was bad. And then he makes some absurd comparison with what's happening, to the Holocaust. But my point is, he goes to every one of these places and he understands the gravity of their tragedies. And then with Syria, it's like, oh yeah, what happened in Syria, that's nothing. Yeah. Syria, nothing. What on earth are you smoking? This is madness. Do you really want to do a comparison? First of all, Syria has been at war for 10 years, not 5 years. I don't know where you got this figure from. Syria has way more bombs that have been dropped on it than your 100 missiles. I don't even know what that means. The destruction in Syria is astronomical. I mean, we were just going through the other day here on the live stream how many historical things have been destroyed. The ISIS blew up the Arch of Palmyra. The Crac de Chevalier, which is the most well-preserved medieval castle in the world, that was also hit during the war. Aleppo's Umayyad Mosque just leveled. Aleppo itself leveled, one of the oldest cities on earth. Aleppo's market, the souk, burnt down. I mean, this is just a fraction. This is a drop in the water. These are just the historical things. Never mind the regular infrastructure that has been pulverized. And the difference is that in Ukraine, you have one party that is in Ukraine is Russia. Syria has 3 occupiers. You have Israel occupying the Golan Heights in the south since 1967. You have Turkey occupying Idlib in the north with Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, with Al-Qaeda. You have the United States occupying the northeast and east in Hasaka and Deir ez-Zor, the oil fields. And that's just the occupiers. Never mind the dozen countries that have been trying to destroy Syria and overthrow the government for 10 years. You've had Turkey, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, the EU, all of these countries working together in funding different terrorist groups, sending their own weapons, their own supplies to overthrow the government. And in the process, of course, who is being, the civilians are dying. And here, I don't know what the exact tally is right now for Ukraine. I think it's a few hundred civilians. And again, my heart aches for them because even one civilian is too much. But since the Ukrainian government wants to make this comparison, I must correct it, because in Syria, you had 350,000 people who've died, at least. Why this stupid comparison? I don't understand this. The West already supports Ukraine. You don't have to go and make these ridiculous comparisons, these outrageously false comparisons, these false equivalences, in order to garner sympathy. You already have people's sympathy. I don't understand why Zelensky compares the Holocaust to what's happening in Ukraine. Again, as tragic as what's happening in Ukraine is, it's not comparable to the Holocaust. The Holocaust is its own thing. 9/11 is its own thing. What's happening in Syria is its own thing. These are all separate tragedies, and you should give them the appropriate attention and care. You don't need to make these comparisons. I don't understand this. The Holocaust, 6 million Jews killed, and of course you have gypsies who were killed. You have political dissidents who were sent to the camps, priests. You have so many people that were systematically killed by the Nazis. it's the most, what the Germans did was the most mechanized genocide in modern history, or in history, I think. And so I don't understand what the comparison is here. You don't need to make these things. He ended up actually angering a lot of Israelis, Naftali Bennett. And again, I can't believe for the first time in my life I actually agree with Israelis on something. Yeah, that this comparison is not okay. And so when I see him doing that with Syria now, or his government at least, because again, this was the official Ukrainian government account posting this. What is this? Everyone was outraged, including myself. No wonder they deleted it. And I just think it's ridiculous, and it's really part of this whole mentality like that we've been seeing from these ignorant racist news anchors who say like the refugees that are coming from Ukraine, they're white, they're European, they're civilized, they're Christian, right? I love that. As if Syrian Christians like me don't exist. As if, because Christianity started in New York, right? Or Ukraine. It didn't start in Palestine and Syria. God, they're so ignorant. So, on top of being like just so racist and xenophobic, they're also historically illiterate. They want to talk about Christianity. They don't even know where Christianity came from. It's so absurd. And so they're basically trying to say the refugees that come from Ukraine are worth more. We should take those in and give them a better treatment because they're not Syrians. And now they want to say that the destruction in Ukraine is also worse than what happened in Syria. Like the European suffering, the Ukrainian suffering is more important than Syria. The destruction is worse. No. This is an uncalled for comparison. There's no need to do this. As I said, Ukraine has already a lot of sympathy. I don't even understand the need to do this. You're actually achieving the opposite effect. You're just making people angry, and that's why they deleted it. Here, this is another thing that they deleted. The Ukrainian government, they posted something down here. This picture where Hadi shared it, and they basically removed this. They compared what's happening in Ukraine to Hamburg, right? Again, these are not the same things. I'm sorry. That doesn't mean what's happening in Ukraine is not tragic. I tell you guys all the time, it makes me so sad. And I hate seeing so many people displaced and killed and refugees. I hate this because it reminds me of Syria. It reminds me of Iraq. It really breaks my heart. But you don't have to compare it and make these weird comparisons. I don't understand that. I don't get it, and I don't think it's okay. I think it's very insulting and uncalled for. And again, I'm not comparing them, but since the Ukrainian government wants to do that, I have to say that by every metric, Syria has had it worse. There have been more countries trying to destroy Syria. More terrorist groups trying to destroy Syria, more weapons and foreign fighters that have come into Syria, more bombs that have been dropped, more people killed, more refugees, more people injured, more infrastructure destroyed, more historical artifacts bombed, more monuments destroyed. I mean, every metric you can think of is worse. Why did they think that this was a smart thing to say? And it's funny because you have the little smart asses when it comes to say, yeah, but you know who dropped all those bombs in Syria? It was the Russians. No. Spor shway. Why is Russia in Syria in the first place? First of all, Russia was invited officially by the Syrian government. It is not in Syria illegally like the Americans or the British Special Forces or Turkey or Israel. Russia was brought in with the help of Iran and Hezbollah. All three of them were officially invited to help deal with an unprecedented threat, with ISIS, with Al-Qaeda, with a dozen countries trying to overthrow the government. I showed you the map. We've gone through this many times. Just how close these groups like Jaish al-Islam and Ahrar al-Sham and Faylaq al-Rahman were to capturing Damascus. If Russia and Hezbollah and Iran had not come and saved Syria, the black flag of ISIS would be flying over Damascus. And that is a fucking fact. My cousin, I was speaking with him just the other day. He told me that he could hear the terrorists from his bedroom window. That's how close they were. At night, he could hear them when there was no traffic. People just don't get it. They don't understand how bad the situation was. And who created this whole mess? Like, do they think the Syrian government was just bombing people for fun or something. Like, no one wants this fucking war. No one wants this crap. The CIA was sending $1 billion worth of weapons and smuggling Gaddafi's weapons after they killed him to Syria. The West has been trying to engineer regime change in Syria. Who started the war? Why do you forget who started the war? Russia didn't even actually want to come. The Syrian government requested Russia to come help, and Russia refused initially. And it took General Soleimani to go to Moscow and convince Putin to help Syria. So Hezbollah, Iran, Russia, Syrians owe them a huge debt of gratitude, because if they hadn't come, we would be living under Al-Qaeda. They would have killed everyone. They would have killed even other Muslims, never mind the minorities, like myself and my family there. These are extremists. They're mercenaries. They kill everyone. They have no morals. They have no principle. They take Islam and they dirty the name of Islam. It's just like, Israelis, they hijack Judaism, or the Crusaders, they hijack Christianity. They use religion as a cover for their political goals. And they have no morals. They're just guns for hire and acting as a proxy for the CIA. So again, I'm going a bit off track here, but I think it's important to address that. And I just wanted to show one more thing. You know how Zelensky's been going around and comparing what's happening in Ukraine to these other tragedies, depending on who he's speaking to. He went and spoke to the Japanese as well. And I'm just going to read the headline to you, and I don't know if you're going to spot what I'm trying to say. So Zelensky addresses Japan's parliament, invoking memories of Fukushima. Again, this is from New York Times. They say Zelensky invokes memories of Fukushima and a cult's chemical attack in his address to Japan's parliament. Okay, so I mean, without a doubt, those are very important events that happen in Japan, but doesn't it strike you as a bit odd that there's no mention of Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Japan is the only country that's ever been nuked, and the overwhelming majority of the people who died in those nuclear attacks, in those nuclear bombs dropped by the United States in 1945, were civilians. They were civilians. Why do you think Zelensky didn't mention that? Is that not a national tragedy? How on earth do you not mention that? I mean, again, I'm just a bit confused what's going on here. In any case, I just wanted to go back to, this absurd comparison that we're seeing here. I mean, this is... No, I think it's wrong when they compare it to the Holocaust. It's wrong when they compare it to what's happening in Syria. They need to stop with this. The West already supports Ukraine. They don't need to do these things. I don't understand it. Completely uncalled for.